Hey, welcome to Newsroom, Teresa Lusk. I have an amazing interview for you tonight. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a lot going on with the Memphis Safe Task Force and the National Guard deployment earlier this year, back in October. So, just to give you a little background, on September 15th, 2025, Trump signed a memorandum creating the Memphis State Task Force, National Guard deployed to address violent crime. On October 8th, the Pentagon they did the orders of all states' guard units trained in crowd control. And then October 10th, 2025, guard troops began patrolling Memphis. Well, there's a story that you may not be familiar with. There's a journalist who worked for the Tri State Defender. And she claims that she was let go because of a post that she put out there on TikTok that actually took off. I want you to take a look and tell me what you think.
Some of y'all might get mad at me. And at this point, I don't give a damn. I'm not into politics. I'm not into all of that extra stuff that people be losing their life over. I ain't into all that. We human, whatever. But I will say thank you to Trump for bringing these National Guards and doing what they doing down here in Memphis right now. You know, for the first time in 5 years. I've been in my home for 5 years. And for the first time, my kids have been able to play in the backyard and be able to do it comfortably. I haven't heard a gunshot in 2 weeks. I haven't seen strange people walk up and down the street. Just a few weeks ago, I had somebody walk on the side of my house. None of that action's going on. I haven't seen no young YNs at the store posted. I haven't seen an infinity fly past me in weeks. I'm sitting on my porch right now, and I'm watching kids outside playing. People outside walking with their kids, stuff I ain't never seen before living in my neighborhood. But all because we feel safe in this environment, unfortunately, because of the things that are happening here in the city. I hate it have to be this way, but I'm happy. I'm happy. Honestly, I truly feel that this is just a band-aid to the problem. I don't think this is going to completely fix everything. But to have a moment of peace, just thank you, Jesus.
Well, there you have it. You have the TikTok clip, and I want to introduce you to my guest, Dalisia Ballinger. And Dalisia, welcome to Newsroom, Teresa Lusk.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, listen, that TikTok video went viral because you said, what did you say? Tell us
Th-
what you said.
I said thank you to Trump, to President
Thank
Trump.
you to Trump. What was going on? Let our viewers know what was going on in Memphis. Tell us your side of the story. What was going on in Memphis that all of a sudden you're saying, listen, there's finally some safety going on here. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I've been a lifelong Memphian, and I live in a community where unfortunately, a lot of high crime has happened. And I've had a lot of things that has happened, within my neighborhood that no child or homeowner should experience. And so I at first in when I originally first heard about President Trump coming to Memphis or sending the National Guard to Memphis, this was in September. He announced it on, I think it was like Great Good Morning America, where he said that he was going to send the National Guard. And I was like, okay. I was a little 50-50 with it.
Mm.
One side of me was like, okay, this is great because now we're about to have some sort of relief. But then I started thinking pretty much like everyone else, like, what is this going to be like? How is this going to be for us? I'm starting to get the fear mongering put into me now
Mm.
at this point. And so I was a bit 50-50 on it.
Okay.
But as a journalist, it's always been my goal to be well rounded, to not be biased. And so throughout the process, especially when they started to come in around the top of October, I wanted to capture that. And I captured it from different angles, from all sides, from all people. And so I just merely had an aha moment one Friday afternoon. I just happened to be checking my mailbox, and I'm standing around. It's peaceful, it's quiet, and for the first time, I'm hearing the birds chirp. And
Mhm.
I'm like, this is new. I'm seeing kids outside playing, a dad throwing the football to his kids. This was the first time, with me being in the community for 5 years that I've seen this.
Mhm.
And I just took it upon myself to tell my truth and to tell my side of it. And I did that from a raw, honest point of view, especially being a mom. I'm a mom of two boys. And again, I was afraid for my children to come outside and play because I was afraid that my children and myself were going to be innocent bystanders because hearing gunshots was a normalcy on the daily here
Mhm.
in Memphis.
Okay. But you were actually torn whenever President Trump, put this order in. You were worried about what was this going to look like. You were concerned it wasn't something that you were initially fully on board with, correct? Is
Correct.
that yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the crime, I mean, you really emphasized how all of a sudden you feel safe. So the crime level was pretty intense. And at the time, you were working for uh, a news for the Tri-State Defender. Is that correct?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. So then you reported that you were let go because you said, "Thank you, Trump." Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay.
That's
So
correct.
they actually put out a statement, and I want to share it and just let you kind of answer to it a little bit. The Tri-State Defender has served readers in Memphis for more than 70 years by producing accurate, fact-based, and informative stories on issues affecting residents of the city and Mid-South. Freelance contributors who write for the Tri-State Defender are expected to adhere to ethical journalistic standards that align with its mission. One such standard applies to the separation of a writer's personal opinion from the news they report, which I thought, Delicia, was interesting to some degree because at the end of the day, whether you report it on social media or in person, you still have a right to your personal opinion. But then it goes on to say we work hard to avoid instances in which personal beliefs, opinions, or political viewpoints of writers could lead readers to presume bias in coverage, whether it exists or not. Which I'm sure being a journalist, you understand that in journalism, there it's biased anyway. I don't know
Hmm.
about you, but I watch
Hmm.
Fox and I watch CNN and
Hmm.
I watch other news outlets, and guess what? They're all biased.
Hmm.
Nobody is really reporting anything fully objective except if there's only facts. And facts, even facts, are objective, right? Because it depends on who. So it goes on, and I want to ask you about this. A freelance contributor, which is you, who has written for the Tri State Defender for over 4 months during my tenure, has stated that she was fired, the word fired, from the Tri State Defender following a personal social media post. This is not true. She has never been an employee of the Tri State Defender. She could not have been fired from a job she didn't have. I'm going to stop right there because this is only half of it. And this is Stephanie Jones, the editor of the Tri State Defender.
Hmm.
Okay, clear this up for us. Were you an employee? Were you a contractor? What was going on there?
I was a freelance contributor there. As a contract, I've been there since 2017. Been there for almost 10 years. Went through three editors, and etc. And at the time, she had been there for only 4 months of her tenure, not mine. I've been there a whole lot longer. Again, since 2017. There was no way, if you research me and look up any of my information, that information goes all the way back to those dates.
Mhm.
So that was interesting to say the least in that statement.
Yes. 100%. So you're saying you were a freelancer, which means you were a contractor, right? So
Mhm.
they terminated
Correct.
your contract. How long
Mhm.
after your TikTok post did that happen?
The TikTok went out on Friday, and by Tuesday, I was done for.
What does it mean by you were done? Because did it mean that they just did not give you more assignments? What exactly does it mean? Because they're claiming she wasn't an employee, so therefore she wasn't fired. So how did that work exactly?
So, originally, when the video started to kick off, I actually had reached out to the editor and told her what was going on. And this was again before it just really, really took off. But again, I'm seeing the numbers climb, and
Mhm,
so crazy thing, she was okay with it at first. My editor is not originally from Memphis. She's from Jackson, Mississippi, which is about probably about 3 to 4 hours outside of Memphis. There are the similar issues equates there in Jackson, and so we had a nice conversation, about it. And then she follows up with another phone call because at this point the numbers have blown up at this point, and she started to receive the videos from people. And
mm,
so that's when she elaborates and tells me that, hey, um, well, I really didn't like the fact that you said thank you, Trump. I actually cut the video off right when you said that.
mm,
Um, I didn't like that at all. And then I proceed to go on to tell her that I was having opportunities to speak on the media, such as Fox News and things of that nature. And she advised me that if I did this, then, considering the fact that these stations are very pro Trump, and her exact words was looking like diamond and silk, um, that it will be done for, that I would be done. And then
mm,
from that point going forward, I made another I thought about it, and I was like, well, okay. And then I thought about it, and then I'm like, I feel like I'm being silenced.
mm,
I'm being silenced because I'm telling the truth. Because who else am I supposed to thank?
mhm.
And by the next day, they're they've released me from everything. They took me from off of the social medias. They've taken me, they stripped me of all of my assignments and said that they were done.
Did they write you a letter or an email? How did you, other than telling you in person, or did they tell you over the phone in person? How did that happen?
Oh, it was via email. I
Okay.
received I received two emails back to back, basically telling me that I was basically stripped of my assignments. The first portion of it, it was over the phone where she advised me that, me moving forward with keeping the videos and all of that stuff, that would definitely sever ties between us. But they made the decision by the following day and cut ties with me.
So they used the word fired. So she really elaborated on the word fired, but I mean, so it's a play on words, really. I mean, whether you're a contractor or an employee, however, they just removed you from everything, including social media, which it is releasing you. It is releasing you from the Tri-State Defender, um, from any assignments, which means you're no longer able to make an income through them because they found it dissatisfactory for whatever reason. Um, what exactly did it mean about turning you into a diamond and silk? What was that reference?
So that goes back to the black female Trump supporters when he first ran in his first term. And they love Trump. And they were heavily on Fox News and things of that nature, showing their support of Trump. And that
Mhm.
was what she was referencing.
Were you a Trump supporter to begin with? Delucia, like,
No.
let's be honest. I know you're on Newsroom, Teresa. It's a conservative. I don't care. I love it when my guests are honest. Were you a Trump supporter, or did you even have a trouble? Did you have trouble with Trump? Like, was there anything about him that you didn't always agree with,
You know what? I'm not a Trump supporter. Let me say that.
even to today?
I consider, even to this day, I'm not a Trump supporter. I consider myself to be independent.
Okay.
I am a person that is based off of action. Whoever is performing the action is who gets my vote. And that's just simple. I When it comes down to Trump and his views, there are some things that I do agree with, and there are some things that I don't agree with. But as far as just having a side, I never picked a side, which was really kind of disheartening about this situation because I learned that this publication, who I wrote for at the Tri State Defender, these individuals are very far left.
Yes.
And I didn't, know this. And also let me include this as well, as long as I've been there for the past 10 years, when you're talking about ethical and journalistic standards based off of
Mhm.
Tri-State Defender, I've never received any of that as far as
Okay.
paperwork. When you're talking about social media policies and standards. But back to your question, no, the I have no issues with Trump. But again, there are some things that I do agree with. There are some things that I don't agree with. And the action that he performed here in Memphis is something that I agree with. I am into this very moment, into this very day, I am very grateful for what he's done here.
Okay. So what makes you say that the Tri-State Defender was far left? Why are you saying that? How can you support that?
Well, based off of my research, the owners, they're heavily involved in a bunch of Democratic Party organizations here within the city, and so that's basically from my research. That's what I gathered.
Okay. Now, are they publicly supporting the left?
Yes,
Oh, they're publicly supporting. Okay. All
yes,
right. But you were put under different standards, which is um, you know, this is just not going to work for us. If you're, they work hard to avoid instances which personal beliefs, opinions, or political viewpoints of writers could lead readers to presume bias. However, if most of the articles, or if a lot of the articles from the Tri-State Defender are very left-leaning, well, that is a bias. That
right,
is right. So that they're already
right,
choosing a side. Again,
right.
it's almost impossible. I mean, it's rare that I see any kind of news outlet that's actually fully objective. It's very
Mhm.
rare. They go on to say, she went on to say, as a freelancer, the reporter was assigned to write news articles about the Memphis task force as well as other topics. The assignment did not include writing columns or opinion pieces either for tsdmemphis.com or social media sites. Um, you saying thank you, Trump, wasn't necessarily an opinion. It was just saying our city is finally safer. Our kids are finally safer because of a policy, not necessarily because of a political party. If President Biden or Obama would have said the same thing, would have done the same thing. Do you believe that this is something you would have also done on TikTok?
Absolutely. I would have given credit to any president, whether it was Bush, Clinton, Obama, or Trump. It's
Okay.
whoever created the action. Because my
Mhm.
thing is, who else am I going to thank? He did it. He
Right.
did it within 2 weeks.
Right.
And who would I be, especially as a journalist, to sit here and lie about that? I'm not
Mhm.
about to lie to the people,
Right.
especially when I live in these communities that he's coming down here for to help and save. I had to do my duty as a journalist to tell the truth.
Okay. So this is kind of one of those things that free speech is kind of an issue here, right? Because it's very um, gray area, right, between your journalist, between a job in general, and posting your opinions. Delicia, it's funny because this is one of those topics that I'm pretty passionate about. You know, any kind of your
Mhm.
constitutional rights, etc. I have seen, and I'll give you an example. Um, when the murder of Charlie Kirk happened, there was a lot of people on the left who absolutely hate people from the right, and they just hate the mindset. They hate what you know what people on the right stand for. And they came out and they said some pretty horrific things. But you know what's interesting? I actually supported their right to say it. I didn't
Mhm.
agree with it at all whatsoever.
Mhm.
It was just terrible what they were saying. It was so dark, it was sick, but I supported their right to say it, regardless of even people with jobs. I know that, you remember, some television, personalities were losing their jobs, we were, and I even disagreed with that. I disagreed with, "You're losing your job for saying even if it's horrible, you still have some free speech rights and people will disagree, etc. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is that something that you think it's important that we should be able to retain our personal freedom to say what we want to say? Because you didn't say it on their website, right? You didn't write it in an article. You didn't write, thank you, President Trump. You said it in a personal, it was a personal platform. Is that correct?
That's correct. I just went on my TikTok and just made a honest video. And to be quite honest, I was not prepared for the snowball effect that it created. Um, when it comes down to free speech, and I'll be honest with you about Charlie Kirk, I wasn't susceptible to a lot of the things that he said. And it made me realize, and it took this situation for me to realize the political blindness that I had. um, and Charlie Kirk made a wonderful statement that identity politics is truly a thing, because I expected, because a person looked like me, that they were going to make sound judgment because of, the history of knowing what we went through as African Americans, that they would have our best interest at heart. But then I'm looking and I'm researching and I'm looking even further, and then I'm putting two and two together, and I'm realizing, wow, I've been making the wrong decision.
Mm,
And from that point going forward, because I've always voted blue, I've always been a Democrat,
mm,
but from that day going forward, I decided to walk away from that.
mhm,
Because I realized that the interests no longer serve me. I feel like everyone's anger has been misdirected, especially when it comes down to Trump. I feel like our anger should be to our local government. Memphis is a Black Democratic city, and we've trusted them for years to be able to handle the crime here in the city, and nothing was done. And
mhm,
I realized more and more that a lot of the Democrats here in this city, they thrive off of the crime. I've
mm,
done significant research and found out that the federal government has given funds to Memphis throughout the years for these different types of agendas and incentives. And again, nothing was done.
mm,
And it took Trump 2 weeks to come in. And by the first week, they had arrested already over 300 criminals and saved 10 children.
wow,
And to date, as of November, that's been over 4,000 arrests and
mhm,
over 200 children saved in the
mhm.
city of Memphis. So you can only imagine what that's been like for us the past couple of weeks, as far as being able to have some peace. And
Yeah.
again, I feel like this has been an exposure piece to our leadership here within the city, because how is it that we've been dealing with this for so long, but it took Trump 2 weeks to make a change?
Well, I think that's part of what their argument is on the right, that that a lot of Democrat-run cities are having this effect, and why so long? Some of the concerns, though, as you can understand, is that the federal government is getting involved with the local government issues,
Mhm.
and that was some of the concerns. How do you address that? Because it's a fair concern, if we're being honest.
Absolutely. It's a very fair concern. Just last year, or I'll say about 2 years ago, there was a murder by the name of Tyree Nichols. He was murdered by four Black policemen here in Memphis. That's really where it all began, because from that point, the DOJ launched an investigation into the Memphis Police Department. And that's where they found thousands and thousands of violations. So I really feel like, along with the crime surge here that's happening in Memphis, they had to do what they had to do. I
Mm,
think them stepping up, or the federal agencies stepping up here in Memphis, was a necessity. And a darn good one, if you ask me, considering, again, the peace that's been here in the city, the criminals that has been taken off the street. And again, as of right now, according to the police chief here in Memphis, the crime rate has been down at least significantly 23%. So it's
okay.
it's been a tremendous difference.
Okay. So let me read a little bit more of this. It says every journalist with integrity and an ethical foundation knows that you cannot report facts and then share your personal opinion with the masses on what you're covering. This erodes public trust in that person's ability to be fair and impartial in reporting and writing. This is what has happened in this incident. Um, Although I will say, have you found that this was this was eroding public trust? Did you find that people were reaching out to you in any way and saying, "Hey, what you just did, it really, affected me. I don't trust the news now because of you." Tell me about that.
Absolutely not. The craziest out of all of these, I have received a lot of support. Have I received backlash? Absolutely. But at the same time, if I had to outweigh everything, it's been huge support because again, you have a lot of fear mongering that's been going on, especially within the media, making people afraid about of other things that's happening here. And it's not that what people are thinking is not what's happening down here. You would think that, it's soldiers marching down the streets like Nazis, and it's nothing like that.
Mhm.
I've even it's there's even been a situation where I've gotten pulled over and they were really nice. Um, and so I'm again, I if I would feel that it's unethical to not tell the truth, which is
Mm,
why I told my truth to begin
mm,
with.
mm.
I think it's biased if you're just trying to keep it to one side. And that is what made me, truly believe out of all of this is that the whole time I'm thinking that I'm writing for someone that is unbiased, but I'm not. I'm on a whole side and I didn't even know. I didn't
Well, I think
realize.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you bring that up because that is exactly what we're trying to make the point here, that nobody is truly objective, and you said it, to report only one side and not to say, "Hey, President Trump's whichever president would have done
Mhm.
it, whatever they're doing, it actually is bringing safety to our city." Obviously, there's still people who violently disagree with that because they still feel like, hey, unless the local government asks the federal government, then they don't have a right to do that. There's still such debate on that. I understand the concern for it, but you're seeing some changes here. Um, so it says, after informing me that her personal social media post related to the Memphis Safe Task Force had blown up, and it's in quotes, and gone viral, she asked for advice on how she could proceed. She was told it was her decision to make, which that is where I am a little just confused, because
Mhm.
if it was your decision to make, then how did that result in being released from assignments and taken off social media, receiving a couple of emails, according to you, that you were no longer going to be a part of that? So how does that correlate? How can it become congruent? Because right now it doesn't sound that way.
um it's so contradicting, if you will, based off that. And if you could just read that part to me, because it's just one particular part that I just want to elaborate on. I'm just trying to make sure I say the right thing.
After informing me that her personal social media post related to the Memphis Safe Task Force had blown up, that's quotes, and was going viral, she asked for advice on how she could proceed. She was told it was her decision to make. So she claims you asked for advice and then you were told it was your decision.
Absolutely not. um it, it wasn't my decision to leave. I've been there for 10 years for Christ's sake. So it wasn't my decision to leave. She gave me an ultimatum. Take the videos down. Let's move past this. Don't go on Fox News, or that's it. It's another play on words. Because at the end of the day, after, like I said, after that, because I didn't even, take the interview right then and right then and there. But it was just again another play on words to make it seem like it was my decision when it was never my decision. They never even gave me time to make a decision because the really literally following the a couple of days after, I was stripped of everything and was told that I was done for. So I don't,
Okay.
as far as making any decisions on my own to move forward, I really didn't even have the opportunity. That opportunity really never presented itself.
Why couldn't you go on Fox? This is kind of like one of those Marjorie Taylor Greene things showing up on The View. Or it sounds like it. So why couldn't you go on Fox?
Well, she said it's pro Trump. Those were her specific words. It's pro Trump. And they're
Okay.
not for Trump. They they
Okay.
don't want me to discuss anything in relation to Trump.
Is it possible to not be pro-Trump and go on Fox or any other kind of news outlet?
Absolutely. I've done it, you know, because at the end of the day, as an American citizen, it is my right to tell the truth, despite if I'm a journalist or not. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm not about to lie to make someone else feel good. Because other than that, I'd still be at the tri-state defender. But
Mhm.
I'm not about to lie to the people about something that I'm actually seeing in my neighborhood, something that has directly impacted my family. I wasn't going to lie about that whatsoever.
Okay. Moving on, she chose the option of leaning into the publicity her social media post had garnered over her commitment to cover the Memphis Safe Task Force. Our goal is fairness, transparency, and accuracy in all we present to readers, and we will continue along that path. That is what our readers expect. And more importantly, it's what they desire. We thank you for your continued support, Stephanie R. Jones, editor, Tri State Defender. So she claims that this is important to them because of transparency, accuracy, and fairness, etc. What do you say to that?
Uh, I think that's quite contradicting considering the fact that I'm no longer there. Because again, I've said worse things other on my social media, I feel. And that was never addressed. But the very first time that I say thank you to Trump, and again, she gave me her whole sentiment behind it. And expressed that it was because of him, that again it's just being completely biased, so that is totally a contradicting statement.
Mhm. Are they asking when you first started working for them,
Mhm.
or contracted under them, do they tell you their expectations, as far as what you can and cannot say and, to stay away from opinions? How do they deal with that with you?
No, absolutely not. I've been there, like I said, I've been there for quite some time, and I've never received anything in writing or anything. There's never been like a sit down with the team or anything in relation to the things that we can say or voice when it comes down to social media or whatever, which was pretty strange to me, you know, again, considering other things that I've said that I feel that's a whole lot worse than me thanking President Trump, that she could possibly put into question if she wanted to, and she didn't, but she made it her opportunity for this moment. And so yeah, that's why we're here.
Okay, well, this is very interesting, right? Because you weren't given a set of instructions on what you are or not allowed to say, but now they want to measure it by fairness, transparency, etc.
Mhm.
However, that wasn't really set an expectation. I would think that if you're going to say, that you're going to be fair and you're going to put these expectations, you would have to say. So if you're going to say anything that's right leaning or supporting the Republican Party or anybody on the right, that would be such an issue. So. All right. So something good came out of this as well, though. There is a young man that I want to show a little clip of, and I want you to tell us about this. Here we go.
Is Braylon, and I live here in Memphis. I've been noticing not just a slight change, more of a detrimental change in like how peaceful Memphis is ever since the National Guard came. There was a lot of things I couldn't do before the National Guard came because I had to worry a lot about guns and stuff. I couldn't play because I was worried that somebody might pull out a gun or something, but now I could do that. And I just wanted to thank the President of the United States for bringing the National Guard.
Thank
Okay,
you.
who is this little guy, and what do you want to tell us about this?
My That is my sweet, amazing baby boy. His name is Braylon. He's 11 years old.
Mhm.
And he's an amazing, amazing kid. And I'm not just saying that because he's my child, but he's an absolute amazing kid. You know, one thing in my household is we talk. You know, he's very much well aware of what's happening in the city and what's going on around
Mm,
him. And he was very much well aware about what happened with my video and the situation that happened with me. And he was like, well, mom, you know, the same thing that he said in that video was the same thing that he said to me. He was like, well, hey, can I make a video? And I was like, well, sure. I mean, if you want,
mm.
you know, it's no problem. And that was just one take, you know, him just thinking off the top of his head. And And there you have it.
There you have it. How many views did he get?
He's close to 1,000,000 views right now. I think the
Wow.
last time I checked, it was like 900,000. I think
Wow.
27. I believe. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yes. So what's happening now? Like, how are you guys putting your life back together? What's happening for your career, your future?
Yes, so great things I feel are on the horizon. I graduated in a few weeks from the University of Memphis. I'm super excited
Congrats.
about that. Thank you so much. And I'm really trying to find my way with this thing now because my eyes have been truly open, and the things that I have been saying, I've generated an audience. And so it's kind of like, where do we go from here? I want to still be able to report the news and be out there and tell the people the truth. I feel that the American people deserve the truth. And, this is why I've been so, heavily trying to share my story because I hope that, someone one day would want an amazing, well-rounded, unbiased journalist on their team. I'm, hoping to really get back into the field and really make some things happen.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I hope that all works out for you, as I know that it has to have had its very strong challenges, especially with expectations that you're not going to support, a president which has working policies. And like you said from the beginning, you don't agree with everything, but you do want to be a well rounded journalist, which means you're going to report several facts, even when they're uncomfortable for either party. And I think that's really the best thing you can do as a journalist is just be honest with here is what's going on. And it's up to the viewers to decide do they agree with it or disagree, right? That's the whole point of journalism, is it not?
Absolutely.
You present and then you get to make up your mind. So we thank you for sharing this story, Delicia, and we really wish you well. We wish your little boy well as well. Is the city of Memphis is it still great? I mean, things still going good? What are we doing?
Memphis is absolutely wonderful. We're definitely spending more time in the city now, more than what we used to. And my children are outside playing. I've made it a thing on Fridays to go and have tea on my porch and
Mm,
read a nice book because it's so peaceful, it's so quiet. And so, yes, the National Guard, they're still here, they're still protecting us. And Memphis is definitely been great.
that's wonderful. Well, much luck to you, many blessings, and thank you so much for sharing this story. And we'll see
Thank
you
you.
again sometime soon. Take care.
Bye bye.